Hi, welcome to Caregiving for Dementia, class number 4 in the series of 7. I hope that everyone is doing well today and thank you for being here again. So today is class number 4 and the topic for today is small steps. And we're going to talk about the process of being a caregiver for dementia as being a long game, something that we need to sustain ourselves for so that we can be a good caregiver for as long as possible and provide the best care. If we burn ourselves out, then we aren't going to be good care for anyone. So if you are just joining in, the things that we've covered already are the first class was called There Might Be Good Here, where we talked about my own journey caring for my mom and talked about some of the blessings that can come from the things that we can learn from being a caregiver for dementia, that there's a lot of focus on the negativity and the fear. So I wanted to start out with some things that I found as a gift for me as I was caring for my mom. That was the first class. Then the second one, we looked at getting organized, which is so important in order to maintain our sanity as caregivers and safety actually for our loved ones, and also to help support them in their independence. If we can be organized, we can actually hopefully help them to do as much as possible for as long as possible. So we looked at organization tips, and then we also started to look at how to identify our gaps. So we looked at kind of using the wheel that I had used when caring for my mom. What are the 8 categories that I looked at, and how can we use those categories to think about our situation as caregivers and identify what's important to us, because there's so much information out there and so many people who want to be helpful, but our situations are so complex. Each of us is so different, so unique, and nobody really knows us better than we do. Nobody knows our loved ones better than we do. And if we are going to really provide the best care and take the best care of ourselves, then we need to have a tool that can help us do that. So that's what I started to walk us through last week. And today, what we're going to do in this class, first one today, is actually take that last class where we're looking at identifying our gaps and kind of take it another step further and say, okay, now that we've thought a little bit about what our gaps might be, where do we feel struggle? Where do we feel like we have needs? Where are our pain points? Now, what are some small, very, very small steps that we can set for ourselves? Things that we could do in a week, in this next week, something small that we can do in this next week that we will feel really good about getting accomplished, something that's really going to make a difference for us this week. So that's what we're going to try to do in this class today. So I want to start out, and I'm going to kind of recap a little bit about last class as far as like the 8 categories and things like that. So if you need a refresher on that, I will go through that today as well. But what I wanted to do first is I wanted to just talk about the importance of thinking about being a caregiver as a long game, because I think it's a tendency for so many of us, and myself included, to try when there's a challenge that comes up, when there's a difficult situation, and especially when we see a loved one struggling with something or in pain, we want to fix it. We want to fix it. We want to jump in and we want to solve the problem. And we want there to be a solution, and we want to find that solution. And so I think one of the first reactions when anyone finds out that a loved one may have dementia or a loved one is diagnosed with dementia, one of the first reactions is always this kind of frantic response. I'm like, okay, let me learn as much as possible, and let me talk to as many people as possible. Let me read some books, and there's got to be things here that I didn't understand or that I didn't know, and what can I do, right? How can I fix this? How can I solve this? How can I protect us, from difficulty? And it is important to learn information and to seek information, and it's important to take time to let that sink in, and part of that can be through learning and reading and talking to people. But what I want to invite in this class today is a little permission for all of us to slow down and to just step back for a moment and acknowledge that this is a long game. Dementia is something that takes many twists and turns, is not predictable, progresses in ways that are unique for all of us, and our situations are also very complex. We're still living our lives, right? So we still have our careers, our families, our health, our dreams. And so how do we fit that together? And so what I really want to invite today is I want to invite you to have permission and to think about how can you structure this so that you can sustain yourself over the next period of time, however long it is, and whatever happens. What are the things that you can do to set things up in a way that you're going to feel steady? So we're just going to try to achieve some steadiness today. And so one of the things that I just going to say some phrases to get us started that have been helpful for me. So one is, think about this as a marathon and not a sprint. Okay, we're going to we want to have a steady pace. This isn't going to be easy. It's not like we're going to stop working or stop trying. It's not like it's going to just fall off of our plate. It's on our plate. It's definitely on our plate, and it's going to be on our plate for a while. But how can we, put the right amount of energy in that we can keep going? We still want to do well in this race. We want to be as supportive as we can. We want to have as much information as we can and love our loved one, but we also want to endure. We want to have the long endurance. We also want to take it day by day. So part of what we will talk about today is breathing into the moments that we have and remembering when we start to feel tight, and we're starting to feel frustrated, and we want to control, or we want to fix, or we want to whatever. It's breathing into that and letting it go, just taking a moment, breathing in and letting go. And I actually have a breathing exercise that's called 4-7-8 that I love doing. I do it in all of my classes, that resets our nervous system. It's very simple, and I will teach it to you in this class today, to help us remember to let go, So part of what that letting go is, and again, this is for me, so maybe it's not you, but definitely for me, it was letting go of this wish for things to be perfect, or at least really, really good all the time. Because, it's really hard to be perfect with dementia. Perfect has a different definition when it comes to dementia. And I think, so let's allow that. Let's allow our definition of perfection to change. Maybe we still aim for perfection, but we're going to redefine it. We're going to redefine it right now. And so how can we say yes, right? And I know I have so many wonderful stories, and I'm sure that many of you have them too, where you realize, okay, you know what? The socks don't match. The shirt is on backwards, but you know what? She dressed herself today. That's great. That's wonderful. Let's go. Right? We let go of what we might have had as a previous standard for for a social appearance. And we say, you know what? It's fine. It is fine. It's great. And it's kind of like, when we have kids and they dress up and they're dressing themselves and they do something quirky, but we're like, that's fine. You can wear the Cinderella outfit today because you want to. That's great. And we just support that. And so I think a lot of what can help us be sustaining in this period of time is kind of exercising that muscle that we have in us of allowing and of accepting and enjoying to some extent, giving freedom, right? Giving freedom to our loved one, and thereby giving freedom to ourselves, for things to be as they are and not something else, not trying to change them. So I wanted to say I have the book here, The 36-Hour Day, which is probably something that's crossed your path if you are on the dementia track. You might have had someone recommend this book to you already. If not, it is a great book. It is a big book. It covers a lot of material. So again, I would say always take it in the measurement that you can. Take it in the piece that you can that works for you. But it's really well done. It's organized nicely into different chapters and sub-chapters, so you can look and find the one that is relevant for you and not be bogged down with the ones that aren't. And there were two things that I thought were relevant for today's class from this book. One is looking at how can being a caregiver for dementia affect you, right? So, part of what we want to understand if we're trying to have a long game and trying to sustain ourselves, we want to be honest about how where we might stumble. So what are the things that are going to make it difficult for us to be sustained? And so I'll just read the list here of emotional reactions that can often come about for people who are caring for dementia. And so the book here has this list of emotional reactions, and then it has little paragraphs on each one. So anger is a reaction that we can have to dementia. Embarrassment, helplessness, guilt, laughter, love and joy, grief, depression, isolation and feeling alone, worry, and being hopeful and being realistic. So when I read this list, I'm sure that there are many things that you resonate with, maybe all of them. I'd certainly know over the course of my journey, I could resonate with every single one of those words. And so what we can do, I think, is important, again, it's just like if you are a runner and you're doing a marathon, you want to know, where is the pain going to come in? And when it comes, how am I going to handle it? So that, because what can happen if we haven't thought about it, and all of a sudden we feel a pang of grief or anger or isolation or helplessness, or, if we haven't thought about it at all, then at least if you're someone like me, you can compound things. So you feel anger, and then you feel guilty that you feel angry. And then you feel helpless that you feel guilty that you feel angry. And of course none of that's helpful. So if, though, we've kind of thought about these things, and we've just settled in, and we've just sat with them and with ourselves and thought, okay, if I start to feel angry, number one, that's okay. It's okay and understandable and happens a lot. And number two, how can I handle it? What is my reaction going to be? What's a trick that I can do for myself? Can I take a breath? Can I take a walk? Can I jiggle my body? Can I turn on some music? Can I go outside and get some sunlight? What's something that I can do if I start to feel any of these things? So we can have some tools in our back pocket to help us in those moments. So that is in the 36-hour day, and that was, again, it's nicely laid out, but that is in chapter 12, which is how caring for a person who has dementia affects us. So what I would like to do, and I tried to do a PowerPoint, so I'm going to, for the first time, try to switch screens here. So let's see if it works. So hopefully you are now seeing the 8 keys wheel. So these are the 8 categories that we talked about last week. And now what we're going to do is we're going to, and again, don't worry, I'm going to go back over those 8 categories, so don't worry if you don't remember them. But just for a moment, okay, here's our path, right? Here's our nice long path. And we're going to say dementia care is a long game, but we're going to give ourselves permission to breathe, to be imperfect. And we're going to define some steps for ourselves. So we're going to kind of, and just slowly take our time and think about, for us, where do we feel vulnerable? Where do we have dreams? And where do we have struggles? And so if you just have a piece of paper, or if you just want to reflect for a moment, I'm just going to give you a moment just to think. For you, this is a moment for you. Think about your dreams and your struggles right now. What do you need most? So I like to use this image. I find it really helpful and powerful to use imagery when we're trying to work on things that are emotional. So I love this image of filling a cup. And especially when it comes to struggles and dreams, and with caregiving, one of the things I think most often, if we say we need, is we need more time and we need more energy. And then the third thing that I hear most is, I wish I had more creativity, more happiness, more joy. I've lost my ability to connect, to feel joy. I can't laugh anymore. I'm exhausted all the time, right? It's burnout, that burnout feeling. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this image of a cup. Okay? And we're going to imagine that we're filling our cup. And we're going to fill our cup with whatever it is that we need. Okay? And we're going to go through the categories, thinking about, as we look at each of the categories, are there things in that category that we need, that we want to fill our cup with? Okay? And equally, we're going to look at if there are any holes in our cup. Okay? So what are the things that might be taking away our energy, draining our energy, draining our time? Okay? So how can we also recognize those things and try to maybe capture them, maybe put some parameters in place, some boundaries in place. Allow ourselves some permission, maybe, to have some boundaries where we feel our energy and our time being drained away. Okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is, with the cup in mind, we're going to look back at the 8 keys map. And this is the worksheet that you're able to download so from my website. And if you didn't do it, again, it's fine. You can just write on a piece of paper these categories as we go along. If you want to download it, you just go to, my website is my name, Beth Reeves, and then 8 keys, so the number 8 and then keys.com, and then you do /caregiving, and it brings you to these the downloads for this class series. You just put your email in, and then you get a link to download the documents. So, what were those 8 keys? So I'm going to go through first the keywords of them, and then we're going to look a little bit more in them. And while I do this, the questions we're asking are, do we need here in this category something to fill our cup? Or are there any holes in this category? Okay. So money was tied to safety and options. So the question here is, do we feel like our cup is full? Do we feel like we have enough money? Do we feel like we feel safe, that we're able to explore the options that we need to explore? Or would we like to add into that cup? Would we like to fill that cup a little bit more? And do we feel like there's anything that's draining away that category, draining resources from us, where we're feeling stretched, where we're feeling anxious, and so we want to like write that down just to have it there. Again, we're not going to take action yet. Right now, we're just trying to write this down. What are things that may be draining our feeling of safety, our feeling of options, our feeling of having enough money, enough resources? Does that make sense? So the next category is simplicity. So this was where we talked about, the keyword is managing change. And we looked at our house, we looked at organization, we looked at, how can we simplify all of our life? And this is really great for the cup, actually, because it's also about time, right? If we've simplified our life, we have more time. So are there things that are taking up time? Are there commitments that we're making, or responsibilities that, that we are able to choose to have or not have? Are there things that we can cut off or limit or reduce that are taking our time? So it's, it's not just physical simplicity, right? It's also how we're managing our time. I was really thinking about this because in the next class today, we're doing Timeline No Fear, and we're going to be talking about the end of life and the last 6 months of life, where we're most likely to have health crises, and kind of going to be a little bit bold and talk about some of those difficult things. And one of the statistics was that the average patient, and this isn't even dementia, this is any patient, has 3 care transitions in the last 90 days of life. So that last 90 days is really a crucial time to have simplicity. We really want to be organized because things are going to be happening very quickly, and they may happen one after the other. They may be compounded or whatever. There's a lot it's a short period of time where a lot happens. So the most prepared that we can be for that period of time is going to help us manage those changes and support ourselves and support our loved one as much as possible. Okay, so in this category, how do you feel? Do you feel your cup is full? Do you feel like everything is simple and organized? Do you feel you have a nice structure in your time? Or do you feel like you have some things there that you would like to add, and you would like to fill this cup up a bit more? Do you have some holes, things that are draining your simplicity out of your life, that you could perhaps, plug those holes? So that's that one. And just write it down. Any thoughts that are coming to you as I'm saying this, so just write them down. Okay. So the third one here is health. So here, of course, we're looking at how do we feel independent? How are we able to live our life in the way we want? And how's our loved one able to live their life in the way they want? So are there things here that are we feeling strong about this? Is our cup feeling full? Are we feeling like we're managing our health issues, and we are our own health too, right? Are we feeling like we are managing our own health issues? Is our sleep good? Are we sleeping well? Is our food well? Are we eating well? Are we exercising? How are our relationships? Are we feeling connected with people in our lives? Loneliness is a very big thing, not only for people who are aging, but for caregivers, because so often we're isolated, right? A lot of times we can't get out from the home because we have to be with our loved one. So we can feel very isolated. It can be very difficult. So how is that for us? How's our heart, right? How are our emotions? How's our mental outlook? So how are we feeling there? How's our cup? Is it full? We want to fill it up. Is there things that want to be drained? So again, just write it down, because what we'll do is we can then find things, we can pick things at the end we want to pick to take the action on. But right now we're just brainstorming, we're just playing and writing down. Okay. So legacy. Legacy is something that a lot of people don't think about when they're in crisis because it's a little bit more reflective, you know? But sometimes it can give us a lot of energy to help, to help us think about the life we're living right now in terms of our legacy. So sometimes it can help us to have that longer perspective. Like, okay, I know I'm in this moment right now, but I'm a continuum. I'm a continuum from my mother, from my grandmother, from my father, from my grandfather, my great-grandfather. I have my children, their children's children. I'm a connection. I'm part of a continuum. So what do I want to bring to that continuum? How am I bringing it? What is my unique story? We are all unique. No one has lived our lives. No one knows our story. So where have we been heroes in our journey? And how do we want to capture that? So how do you feel on that? Is that a full for you, or would you like to take a step there to fill it up? Take some time dedicated to thinking about your story. Happiness. Now, of course, happiness is a big topic. Someone in a class recently said, "Oh, I don't like the word happiness. It's overused. I wish we could use the word joy." Joy is better. So whichever word works for you, happiness, joy, where do you feel? How do you feel? Now I say happiness, my keywords, I have my dream here. I like to ask the question, what brings you joy and what do you dare? I'd like to put a little courage into happiness because I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on being safe, and certainly when we're caregiving for dementia, we think a lot about safety. But we also want our loved ones to be happy, and we also want to be happy. And sometimes that means doing things that may be a little daring, right? Sometimes it might mean taking a risk. So, what are those things? Where do we fall in that safety risk spectrum? Are we really, really safe, and are we feeling limited by that? Would we like to maybe move a little bit more down the risky way? Try something new? Or are we feeling maybe we're a little bit too risky and we've been out there and we need to pull it back and maybe be a little bit more safe? Where do we fall in that spectrum? Where do we fall? So what brings you joy? What do you dare? How do you feel in that? How's that cup for you? Is that something that you feel you need to think about? Or do you feel like that's full for you? And then are there things that have been draining that for you? Anywhere that you can look, that you can plug holes? And the next one is support. Support is where a keyword is connections. And there we're looking not only at the personal connections that we have in our lives, but also more broadly within the community. How are we connecting? And also looking at communication. So communication can be, are there things that we want to say either to our loved one, but also to ourselves? Because part of what happens when we're going through caregiving is we can also be learning about ourselves. I certainly learned a lot. That was one of the gifts I feel that my mom gave me, is that by being with her, I was able to take time to be with myself in ways that I hadn't spent enough time. And so part of support, I think, and part of that communication can be communicating with ourselves, writing things down, journaling, communicating to our past self, communicating to our future self. And it also means connections. It means, where do we find support? So where do we find support? And that can be with our four-legged friends, of course. It can be with music or nature or art or a hobby or um, there's so many different ways that people can find support. So, but sometimes we forget. I know that like sometimes I go to an art museum and I think, oh gosh, why don't I come here more often? It's something that gives me a lot of support. I love I love being in an art museum, or if I go to a garden here, that we have a beautiful garden here in Durham called the Duke Gardens, and every time I go there, I think, oh my goodness, what an amazing resource. Why don't I come here more often? So, what are the things that provide support for you? And are they in your life? Are they in your cup? Or have you forgotten them? Have they fallen out? Want to pull them back in? So, anything there that's bringing to mind that you would like to fill up your cup? And is there anything there that's draining your cup, where you're feeling that you're depleted? Anything that is straining that area for you? Okay, there's two more. So purpose. So the key word here is meaning. And again, this is an area that we can forget about, especially when we're in stressful situations, because we just are feeling we want to survive, we're trying to get through the day, and we're not thinking about having meaning in our lives. But it's so important, and it's important for our loved ones as well. And part of what can really cause unhappiness is as dementia progresses and they are unable to do things for themselves, and more people are coming in, and they're not able to communicate, and they're starting to receive messages back that they aren't making sense, and it's frustrating, and so they're losing that self-independence. They're also losing a sense of purpose. They're losing that sense of purpose. And it can be given back to them in simple ways. And so I don't know, I'm sure that many of you have watched the videos of Teepa Snow, who is amazing. And I will make a note right now to post the video of Teepa Snow down below. There are many that I could post, but there's one in particular that I really like, where she talks about activities that you can do with your loved one, and she kind of walks people through a simple exercise of making cookies. And yeah, so they have a kitchen where it's like a group class, and they have several people there who are making cookies, and so they walk through mixing and pouring and measuring, and at the end they have cookies. And there's many different activities that can be done, but the point is, are you feeling a need to find that with your loved one? And how are you feeling about it for yourself? And again, I know that I keep coming back to you, and sometimes it's really hard when we're caregiving to feel like we can take time to think about these things for ourselves. But I do invite you, in the small moments, whenever you can, to take a moment and think about it, even in this time of stress. Where are you feeling that you have meaning and that you're contributing? And remember, where your dreams are in that sense, and what do you look for? And if you don't have the time to do something right this second, so that's okay. One of the things we'll talk about is, put a picture up on the wall, right? Put something that's inspiring for you up in front of on your refrigerator, or something that is meaningful for you. Okay, you want to go back to school and become a nurse, or you want to, move to another country, or whatever it is. You want to write a book. Have a picture of something that reminds you of that's something that's meaningful for you and for your future. And then, it'll be a visual that can support you in your dreams. So anyway, thinking about that cup again, for purpose and meaning. Is that something that feels full for you? Would you like to fill it up? And if so, write that down. And then the last one, preparation. So preparation is something we're going to be talking a lot about in the next class today at 5 o'clock. And the key word here is relaxation. And the reason is that I feel preparation is something, it can feel like it's heavy. It's like trying to pack for the trip. We don't really want to pack for the trip. We just want to go on the trip. We want to be on the vacation. Packing isn't so much fun. But once we're packed, once we've prepared, we can relax. And so certainly when it comes to these big questions, end of life questions, caregiving questions, paperwork, things that are not so fun to do and can also bring up a lot of emotions for us and are scary because we don't have a lot of opportunity to talk about them. And so we might not have had many conversations about death and about funeral options and things like that. Might not have been to many funerals. And so it's a bit of open area, an unknown. But after we've done it and we've thought about it, come to a conclusion, written it down, it's done and we can relax. We know it's done. If we're not, it's niggling us in the back of our brain. Once it's done, we can relax. So do you feel there in your cup that it's something that is bothering you? Is it something that's causing you to not feel relaxed? Do you feel like there's something there you need to do that needs attention? Then that is a cup that needs to be filled. Or do you feel like your cup is full and you've done it all and you're good? That kind of thing. Okay? All right. So I think what I have next are some slides that kind of go through these again. And I think I'm going to go through those slides and just take a moment and let the slide sit so that you can just reflect again as we go through. And then we're going to wrap it all up with coming back to what you've thought of, what you've written down, and we're going to pick one thing, maybe two things, simple things that can be done this week. And I'm going to walk you through how to pick something really, really small. Okay, so let's just look through here. Money, simplicity, health, legacy, happiness, I hope I'm not doing this too fast. I guess you can pause it. Support, purpose, and preparation. Okay, so I'm going to just come back now. Try to click exit. Click exit. Oops. Cancel. Oh, I am back. Okay, good. Okay, so in these last few minutes, so what I want you to do is, again, this is an exercise, and you know, you can stop, you can come back to this. You don't have to have gone through all of this all at once. I hope that you use this in the way that's supportive to you. But what I would like you to do is to look at your notes, just kind of look at them all and look at the things, and see which ones have the strongest call to you right now. Which ones are kind of like the low-hanging fruit, or thing that you feel like that would really make a difference if I could move that needle, if I could fill that cup a little bit more. Pick that category and look at the things that you might have written down. Now what you want to do is you want to define a step that can be accomplished this week, without a doubt. So to give you an example, this is from health coaching, if you wanted to lose weight, this is the broad category. And the specific action was, I want to start jogging 3 miles a day. Okay? That's too big. Okay, so bring it down. Well, I want to jog 3 miles one time this week. Maybe if you haven't been jogging at all, that might still be a lot. Okay, bring it down. I would like to jog one time this week. I don't care how long. Okay, that's getting more reasonable. You know, that could maybe be done. I could maybe do that this week. Feel maybe like 80% sure that I could jog this week for some length of time. But we want 100%, so we're going to bring it down even more. Okay, I am going to put my tennis shoes on one time this week. And I'm going to think about jogging this week and put my tennis shoes on. And then, you know, if you wanted to bring it down even more, you know, people, there's a friend of mine who did this, and she said, I'm just going to set my tennis shoes out by the foot of my bed so that I see them. That's my goal for this week. And, you know, it sounds funny, it sounds silly, but it's something that can be done. We can definitely set our tennis shoes out by the foot of our bed and accomplish that this week, you know? And having a goal like that and having it accomplished has an impact on our brain. It does. And we are more likely to be able to put those shoes on and then get out the door and actually jog. If we had the very small goal, then we're more likely to succeed than if we had a bigger goal and didn't make it. Okay? So take whatever category it was that you were thinking of and looking at what you would like to accomplish, and then challenge yourself to make it as small as possible. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, until it's something that you know with 1000% certainty you can accomplish it this week, and then make that your goal. Okay, now before we go, I did say that I was going to teach you the breathing exercise, and so I will leave you with this little gift. It's very simple, and I'm going to do it with you. It is called the 4-7-8, and it does reset your nervous system. So we're going to do it 3 times, and the way that you do it is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you blow out slowly for 8 seconds. So we're going to do that 3 times, okay? All right, so here we go. We're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Deep breath. Relax. Shake it out. So hopefully, if you are able to do that with me, you will feel the impact of that. It is really simple, but it really is powerful. It's a great thing to do first thing in the morning to start your day, or at the end of your day when you're ready to go to sleep. It also, of course, if you're in a stressful moment, it's a great thing to do. They do say, you know, don't do it more than twice a day at first, because it actually is really strong and powerful, and so you don't want to overdo it. So, I mean, sets of 3 twice a day. So don't like do it every 5 minutes or something. That might be we do it. So great. I think that is it for this class. So just to recap, this class, your goal here was to remember that we are in a long game and to set ourselves up so that we can sustain our energy and have a long time as a caregiver to really provide care. We need to take care of ourselves in order to do that. We also need to think about how can we make sure that we keep our cup filled, and we looked at the different categories that might need filling, and then try to identify one very, very, very small step that we could make this week that's going to help us in this coming time, in this coming week. So as a reminder, I will have the second class today at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. And of course, all of these are recorded. The one at 5 today is called Timeline No Fear. And, oh, about to sneeze. We will be looking at the end of life and kind of approaching the end of life. So the last 3 to 6 months in particular, and how is it different if we are caring for somebody with dementia? Like, what are things that are we might want to think about, or questions that we might want to ask, or situations that we may encounter that are a little bit unique to someone with dementia. And we just talk about what does it mean to have a good death, actually. So we're going to have be a little bit bold in this next class, and try to have a conversation about some things that we don't often talk about in our society. So hope to see you there, and I hope that you found this helpful. Please do leave comments. It's helpful for me to know, and encouraging for me to know if you did find it helpful. And if you had questions, or if there are things that weren't clear, or things that you'd like me to follow up on more, please let me know that as well. That will help me know what to do. After I finish this series of 7 classes, I will continue to have these chats on Sunday afternoons at 3 p.m. Eastern, just covering anything that's relating to caregiving, whether it's a book that I found helpful, or a tool like this breathing exercise, some other tools that I found helpful, or doing an interview with a guest that was working in this area and has some expert advice for us, those kinds of things. So I welcome your suggestions and requests to tell me what would be helpful for you. Thanks so much for being here, and have a great rest of your day.